Good day, gentlemen. You must sacrifice yourself for a great relationship. I can say that with confidence because I've been with my girl for almost 6.5 years and we've built a fantastic relationship together. And if you don't understand how and especially why I use the word sacrifice here, which is very different from society's notion of sacrificing, then you will honestly get stuck in the same cycle of broken relationship after broken relationship, just like so many men these days. And I can also say that with confidence because this is stuff, what I'm about to teach you here, please, my clients, please don't shame me for this, but I'm gonna share some information that I usually only share with my clients. What we're not gonna talk about in this video is you sacrificing your wants and your needs to make your woman happy. That doesn't work, and we don't believe in this like Disney movie BS here on this channel. Like, that's crazy, bro. But the opposite of crazy is still crazy. So we're also not going to talk about the immature red pill manosphere bullshit that's on the internet everywhere these days. We're going to talk about the elevated middle between both of those extremes so that you can actually build a relationship that you actually want and avoid both of these traps towards like these extremes here, right? But if you don't sacrifice yourself in the way that I'm about to tell you, you will get stuck in the same cycle of broken relationship after broken relationship over and over again. Now, for lesson number 1, please understand that in order to have something you've never had, you need to be someone you've never been. And I'm not one of those spiritual guys who think that by rubbing crystals and shouting affirmations in the mirror, they will naturally manifest their dream reality. I'm actually quite the opposite, but it's just logical that you attract what you are, you attract who you are. And if you don't sacrifice yourself in the way that I'm about to tell you, you will not only keep attracting the same problems into your current relationship or keep attracting the same people into your life, you will also just have relationships end in the same way over and over again. Sound familiar? Exactly. Because, bro, look, 2 years into my relationship, I was stuck in this cycle of having these deeply anxious thoughts about my girl leaving me or cheating on me, when realistically there were zero, and I mean zero, red flags. There was nothing. All these fears were completely irrational, but they still led to me getting stuck in these cycles of constantly checking my phone, not being able to actually focus on my work because I was so afraid all the time. So my business stagnated completely. And also, my health went down massively because I genuinely couldn't fall asleep often at night. Like, I lay awake for hours. I even woke up in the middle of the night, even when I was with her. Like, this is the crazy part. I was in bed with her, and I woke up in the middle of the fucking night, and I had to journal like an hour straight to even get tired enough to sleep again because I was so anxious, even though she was literally right next to me in the same fucking bed. I was honestly stuck in this constant state of fight or flight, basically, constant state of threat with all these scenarios running wild in my head. And now getting to a point where I've overcome all of that and have actually built a relationship that not just gives me immense peace, but also gives me insane support for my goals, my aspirations, my dreams, everything that I wanted to build. Bro, I would not be in this position that I'm in right now, living in a different country than my home country, literally building a business of my fucking dreams, helping people all around the fucking world, being in the best fucking shape of my life. Like, all these things, man. I would not be here without this relationship and without overcoming this. And that's why I'm making this video for you, because I want to get you there as well. So, again, like we said earlier, in order to have something that you've never had, you need to be someone you've never been. So, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. You can't get something, you can't receive something without giving something, or like in this case, giving something up, sacrificing something. And that something, or rather someone, is your old self. You need to let go of your old self who has created all these bad relationships that ended in bad ways. That's who you need to let go of. That's who you need to sacrifice. But how the fuck do you sacrifice your old self? Let's dive into that. And that brings me to lesson number 2. Because I know that right now, there is a voice in your head trying to convince you that me, this random guy sitting on a camping chair on a fucking random beach, is talking mad shit. And why does this happen? Why is that voice in your head trying, like, making up all these arguments for why I'm wrong and your ego essentially is right? Well, it is your ego, like I already mentioned, right? And it's not just your ego, more specifically, it is your ego who is attached to your old self. Let that sink in for a moment. It is your ego attached to your old self. Why does your ego bring up this resistance, this invisible force of resistance, as Stephen Pressfield calls it? Well, what happens here is your ego doesn't want to die, and it also doesn't want a part of it to die. But if I teach you, by you continuing to watch this video, if I teach you how to let go of your old self, then exactly that will happen. Your old self you will let go of it, you will sacrifice it, and therefore a part of your ego will die. In spiritual communities, they call it an ego death. Now, of course, your ego doesn't want that to happen, so it's giving you all these arguments, trying to convince you that I'm wrong and your ego is right. And that's happening literally again right now. Now, here's the thing. I always teach this to my mentorship clients first because it helps them understand themselves, helps them understand this invisible force of resistance, and actually helps them understand how to deal with it. And by the way, just on a side note, if you are a man in his 20s or early 30s and you're struggling in your relationship, you want to take it to the next level, but you don't know how, then there's a link in the description that you can check out. You can apply for my mentorship if you're interested. But anyway, some guys watching this might still fall into the trap of believing their ego, and that's okay. But maybe you are already at the stage in your development where you can see that what I'm saying is true. And if you are that guy, then listen up very closely right now. Because this guy that I mentioned earlier, Stephen Pressfield, he was the first guy that I heard talk about this force of resistance and how to actually overcome it. And Stephen Pressfield, he wrote this book called The War of Art. Fantastic book on actually creativity. So you're like, well, how the fuck does that fit into relationships? Well, what is creativity? It's problem solving. And what you need to do right now in your relationship or in your life to build a relationship that you want to build? Well, solve problems, exactly. So basically, Stephen Pressfield talks about how resistance... First of all, quick side note. I've studied Stephen Pressfield deeper than most people. But what I'm about to tell you is his most obvious lesson. And it's by far the most powerful one that I've found so far, and it helps you deal with resistance and actually get rid of resistance long term. Resistance is a signpost. That's the most valuable lesson I've ever learned from Stephen Pressfield. Resistance is a signpost. Just like a signpost, when you're going on a hike, you're hiking up a mountain, and there's two paths, and the signpost shows you, oh, go to this path, right? Resistance shows you the way. Resistance comes up when you want to make a transformation, when you want to make progress in your life. Because again, your ego, your old self, doesn't want to die. So it brings up this resistance to hold you back from actually making the progress that you want to make, from becoming the man that you want to become. So when this resistance comes up, realize that it is a signpost. It's leading you, it's showing you the direction. Not by telling you, oh, this is not the direction, but actually the direction that it tells you to not go into, that's the exact direction you need to go into. Because your ego, your old self, is afraid of dying if you let your new self, the man that you want to be essentially, the partner that you want to be, if you let that guy emerge. Now, in a few minutes, in lesson number 4, I'll tell you exactly how I let go of this old self and how all of my clients have done it, how they have become the man and the partner that they wanted to be, and how they've built the relationship that they wanted to build. Before we get into that, though, we have to deepen your understanding of why you even need to let go of your old self. We need to work on that ego, that resistance a bit, so you can actually implement lesson number 4. And so, I want to give you this lesson that my mentor, or one of my mentors, Ryan, he also has a YouTube channel called The Conscious Man. One of the things that he recently told me on a call that we've had. And this might sound very obvious, but please listen up here, because this is much more profound than you think. You can only get to know someone as deeply as they know themselves. What we're talking about here, of course, is intimacy, right? You can only get to know someone as deeply as they know themselves. And that applies for you getting to know a woman, but also a woman getting to know you. I always defined intimacy as knowing thyself, knowing yourself, and knowing the other, knowing your partner. That goes both ways. If you don't really fully know yourself, which you don't right now, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this video, otherwise you would have the relationship that you want to have, because you would already have built the self that you wanted to build, and therefore attracted the relationship that you wanted to attract. Just build that relationship, not even attract or manifest or whatever, but it would have just come naturally to you. So you're not there yet. So there's this quote by this guy called Neil Strauss. And I want to read this to you because Neil Strauss, in his earlier years, he was a pickup artist, right? He was just picking up a bunch of random women, sleeping with them, and essentially wrote this book called The Game, which went super viral, helped a bunch of guys just have sex with random women. And now, a couple years ago, he wrote this book called The Truth, where he talked about relationships and how he actually found and built the relationship that he wanted to build and what he had to do to get there, which was let go of his old self. That old self that was addicted to sleeping around with all these random women to fill some wound, some hole within himself. So, Neil Strauss, about intimacy, he says, it's when partners stop living in the past, in their trauma history, and start having a relationship with each other in the present moment. So, what's holding you and your girl back from actually building the relationship that you want to build is that one or you or both of you is still stuck in their trauma history, still keeping those walls up. And here's the thing, here's the catch. This is very important for you to understand. If she doesn't open to you on a deep level, if she doesn't deeply trust you, that might be because of her, but most likely it is because she can't trust you because you don't even trust yourself. Because otherwise, if you trusted yourself, you would look at those deeper wounds. You would heal those deeper wounds. You would get out of this cycle. You would actually, for the first time in your life, most likely, actually look at yourself. Actually look at who you truly are and what's truly going on inside of you. Look at those dark, deep sides of you that you're so afraid of. And that's what I'm going to teach you how to do. And I'm not going to tell you how to fucking meditate. Oh, just meditate for 5 minutes. Whatever. That doesn't work for most people. That's the simple truth. Meditation is great. I've done it for years. But it only really started working more for me after I've done it for hundreds or even thousands of hours. So I'm going to teach you something much, much easier than that. To actually look at yourself and actually let those things emerge so they can come to the surface where you can see them and see, holy shit, this part of myself that I was so scared of the whole time, it's not even that scary. I can actually live with that part. I can integrate it, which will then help your girl actually trust you. Because for the first time, probably in your life, you actually trust yourself. But firstly, you must admit to yourself that there are parts of yourself deep inside that you don't want to look at, that are scary. And here's the thing. Why are they so scary? They're not scary because they are scary. They're scary because you don't know what's down there. You are scared of those deeper parts because you don't know them. You don't know what they are. You don't know what you'll find. Our ego as humans is not afraid of an outcome, of a negative outcome. It is afraid of not knowing, of uncertainty, of losing control. If you knew with 100% certainty, if you skydive, you will not die. If you knew that with 100% certainty, you wouldn't be scared of skydiving. Let me give you one of the analogies that I've given to every single one of my clients, and that has, without fail, blown every single one of their minds. I need to give a quick backstory. When I was a boy, I was obsessed with this survival expert called Bear Grylls. I watched every single episode of his show. I loved it. It was great. And one of the lessons that I learned from him was when you're swimming in a body of water where there's crocodiles, don't be scared of the crocodile you see. Be scared of the crocodile you can't see. Now switch out crocodile for emotion or for thought. That's what you're scared of. You're scared of those emotions, those thoughts, those crocodiles who are in that murky water beneath you where you can't see them, where you don't know how big that crocodile is or how small it is, or maybe it's just like a fucking plastic crocodile. You don't even know. And that's what you're scared of. You're not scared of that crocodile necessarily. You're scared of not knowing. You're scared because you don't know how big that crocodile might be or what it even looks like, how scary it is, how close it is to you, how close it is to eating you essentially. And to bring this point home fully, the reason that you're scared of those crocodiles is because you have kept them in that murky water. You have the power to bring those crocodiles to the surface where you can see it and be like, oh, that's not even that scary. It's like fucking 500 yards away. I don't even need to be scared of that fucking crocodile. It's never going to catch me. Or it's like, it's a fucking plastic crocodile. It's not even that difficult, whatever. But once you bring those things to the surface, just like people say, shame can only survive in the dark. When you hide it, essentially. The moment you bring shame to the surface, it's gone because shame can't survive in the light. Just like an ice cube can't survive if you put it into the sun. It's the same with all of your emotions that you're scared of deep down. That's the point, man. And now I'll teach you how to bring those crocodiles to the surface. So, number 4, Last step, and by far the most important thing I'll teach you in this whole video, because I always keep the most important lessons to the end of these videos as a reward for guys like you who actually put in all this time, all this effort to learn this stuff, improve themselves, improve their relationship. Lesson number 4, we'll go over how we can actually bring those crocodiles to the surface. How the fuck do we bring them to the surface? It's very simple, and I'll give you a very specific practice to do this, but I can understand if this scares you, and that's completely okay. What we need to do is, of course, look at them, examine them, make them conscious. As one of the most prominent and one of the most influential music producers of honestly all time, Rick Rubin, has said, he has done a lot of this inner work. I know I'm bringing a lot of different people into this, but I've been inspired by a lot of different people, quite frankly. So Rick Rubin said, force feelings to surface so they can be examined. That's what we're going to do, because you will realize the moment you bring those crocodiles to the surface, you see, they're not even that scary. I can live with that. And then you get to a point where you're actually finally comfortable in your own skin. You actually feel confident. You actually feel okay with yourself. And therefore, you actually trust yourself. And your woman will therefore be able to trust you. And therefore, you'll be able to build a relationship that you've always wanted to build. So let's dive in. So, how do we bring those crocodiles to the surface? We've talked about how our ego is holding us back. We've talked about how resistance is holding us back. What does that resistance look like in a physical form? Very simple. Distraction, diversion, disturbance, occupying your mind with anything and everything 24 hours per day, or like every waking minute, basically. Why do you think that when you fall asleep or when you wake up in the morning, you've sometimes found the solution to a problem that you could not solve the previous day while you're awake? Why do you think that happens? Because when you're asleep, your subconscious mind can do its thing. There is no distraction while you're sleeping. You're just sleeping. Your subconscious mind can therefore put the puzzle pieces together. And we can do that while we are awake. We can do that consciously. What you need to do is you need to immerse yourself into one specific state of mind that actually enables these crocodiles to surface. And that state of mind is boredom. Why do you think that every great inventor, entrepreneur, politician, every person who has shaped our world these days in a massive way, why do you think that all of them spend 30 minutes or even hours every day sitting in some rocking chair on like a... Man, I rocked back and forth and now the fucking chair is stuck in the sand. Anyway, why do you think they sit in some rocking chair, rocking back and forth, smoking a cigar, just looking at a fireplace? There's no real distraction there. Why do you think they did that? Because they know that boredom, which is now scientifically proven, by the way, boredom is the best state of mind for creativity. And what the fuck is creativity? Exactly, problem solving. That's what it is. And when you bore yourself, when you immerse yourself into boredom, which I know, like, it sounds so simple, but when was the last time where you were actually bored, where you sat at some, I don't know, random location in some cafe or some bus stop, and you actually didn't look at your phone? You waited in line for something, didn't look at your phone, or you sat at home alone and didn't watch TV, didn't watch YouTube. When was the last time you just ate dinner or ate any food by yourself without watching even one of these videos? It's probably a long time ago, because otherwise you wouldn't be here. And when you do that consciously, when you immerse yourself into boredom consciously, and you just bore yourself, like you bore the fuck out of yourself, what happens is, you basically... Let me give an analogy here again. When you don't bore yourself, when you distract yourself, you basically put like a layer of concrete on top of this water that you're swimming in, where all these crocodiles are in the murky water beneath you. You put a fucking sheet of concrete at the surface so those crocodiles can't even come up. But when you bore yourself, those crocodiles flow to the surface naturally. They will come up naturally. Once you immerse yourself into this state of boredom, you make room for your subconscious mind to actually find solutions to your problems, to actually let those crocodiles come to the surface. But on the other hand, if you continue distracting yourself, distracting your subconscious the whole time, what will happen is those crocodiles will only get scarier and scarier. You know, some men, they even go to therapy to talk about their problems just to distract themselves from those very problems, because talking with some professional distracts us momentarily, but therapy rarely involves active inner work to actually heal those wounds. That's what most men need. They need to do something active. You need an action plan. They need to do something actively to actually heal those wounds, not just talk about them. Now, because you've stuck around for so long, I want to give you 2 bonus quotes that will really, really tie all of this together. These quotes are from Neil Strauss, the pickup artist, sex addict guy who turned into this awakened relationship guy by sacrificing his old self, sacrificing that version of himself that he didn't want to be anymore. And he wrote this book, like I said earlier, The Truth, which I can really recommend. It's very rare that I recommend someone else's work, but this book is truly fascinating and honestly life-changing. Listen up here, because these quotes are really profound. Let them really sink in for a moment. Let them marinate for a moment in your mind. Quote number 1. It turns out that the inner child is very real. It is our past. And the only way to escape the past is to embrace it. Let that sink in for a moment. Quote number 2. Any style of relationship is the right one, as long as it's a conscious decision made by the whole person and not the whole in the person. Let that sink in again. If you need to go back a couple seconds, rewatch that whole section where I said these quotes. Let them sink in, let them marinate. And again, if you are a man in his 20s or early 30s, you're struggling in your relationship, but you want to spend your life with this woman, you love her, you want to build a lifelong companionship with her, then you can apply for my mentorship. I want to help you out here. There's a link in the description where you can fill out an application, and if I think that I can help you, I'll reach out to you and I'll help you. And if you're not interested in that, that's completely okay as well. Just continue watching the free videos. But I will say that access to my mentorship will close again in around 1 week, 1.5 weeks from when I will post this video. So if you want to do it, if you want to see what I offer, then fill out the application. I'll tell you everything and I'll help you out if I can. Talk to you very soon. Have a great day. Chill. I'll give you everything that you want. That sounds fucking wrong, bro. I'll give you everything you want. That sounds gay as fuck. Anyway,